Hey, it's me. If you're going through an inner struggle right now, maybe feeling depressed or confused, I want you to know that you're not alone and that this is actually a natural part of your growth. As you work on yourself, the core of your problems rises to the surface so you can look at it more clearly. But until you truly understand the big picture of your conflicts, you're bound to feel lost and discouraged. In the past, you might have learned some things about smaller issues in your life, but you still don't have a clear view of how everything connects, why certain things in your life feel unfulfilling or cause you pain. A big part of you may resist real change and growth because you think you'll be unsafe without your old ways of protecting yourself, even if those old habits don't actually work. Sometimes it looks like you're resisting change, but what's really happening is you feel frustrated with yourself for slipping back into old patterns. This happens partly because it takes time to replace old emotional habits with healthier ones, and you can't create new habits until you truly understand how all your conflicts fit together on a deep personal level, not just in theory. I can give you some clues from the outside, but real understanding comes from within. You need to connect these ideas to your own experiences, your own feelings, and your own patterns. Let's do a quick review. So we've talked about three main parts of doing this work, this inner self-inquiry. The first part is what we call images. Images are false ideas we formed in childhood after being hurt or disappointed. We believe something like, all situations like this will hurt me, or I must act a certain way to feel safe. And that belief became an unconscious pattern. The second main part of this work that we've talked about are repressed needs and emotions. When you felt hurt or rejected as a child, you may have pushed down your real needs, like wanting love or affection, because you believe they couldn't be met. And the third main part that we've talked about on this path are defense mechanisms. So to protect yourself from getting hurt, you might have become overly submissive, aggressive, or withdrawn. You might also rely on an idealized self-image where you try to appear perfect. All these parts, your images, your hidden needs, your defense habits, are linked together. And unless you see how they connect in your own life, likely you'll keep feeling confused. Okay, so let's sort that out. First, let's review how an image can form. A child feels hurt or frustrated by a parent's attitude or behavior. The child then decides every similar situation will be just as painful. That's the image, a rigid belief that no longer true, but it still shapes the child's life as they grow up. A false remedy forms to avoid getting hurt again, but because that remedy is based on a wrong idea, it never actually works. Over time, you might push down that original hurt so you don't even notice it. You also push down the honest longing, be loved or cared for. You try to feel safe by using your defense mechanisms, like trying to impress everyone or by avoiding closeness altogether. And of course, these behaviors don't fix the loneliness or the pain. They usually bring the very disappointments you were hoping to avoid. So let's take a concrete example. So imagine a boy who has grown up with a mother who is more cold or critical. He grows up believing women don't give love. At the same time, he notices that when he does well in school, he gets some praise or acceptance. So he forms an image that success equals love. because trying hard can often lead to real success, that part of his plan works, in a sense. But the deeper need he has to actually feel loved never gets fulfilled by success alone. So every time he succeeds, he still feels empty. Deep down, he worries he's unlovable, which makes him keep striving. And so the vicious cycle continues. The truth is that he's not actually unlovable. It's his defensiveness, maybe what comes across as arrogance, fear, or the need to seem superior. It's that defensiveness that pushes real love away. Only by looking honestly at his patterns, recognizing how he formed them, and allowing himself to feel vulnerable, can he start to see he's lovable underneath it all. Now, that's just a very simple example, but hopefully you get the idea. The same holds true for people whose defense style is to submit or withdraw. These are just other ways of trying to protect ourselves, yet they also block genuine connection. Breaking free from these old patterns isn't easy. You tend to see contradictory feelings, moments of insight that seem to slip away, and this confusing battle between wanting love while pushing it away at the same time. You may notice that letting your real self shine goes against your usual rules or the safe routines that you've built up. Your true, unguarded self won't lead you astray. Your true, unguarded self never leads you astray. When you catch yourself acting from a defensive, walled off place, notice how others respond to you. Then compare it to what happens when you feel more relaxed, more open. By seeing the effect of your defenses, you start to realize that your old approach brings the exact problems you don't want. If you know your main image, that core belief that causes your biggest disappointment, that triggers these patterns in the first place, keep exploring how it shapes your behavior and your unspoken demands. Which parts of it work because they're based on some truth? Which parts fail because they're based on a false conclusion? Notice the real needs you've been denying and pay attention to the unhealthy needs you've created, like, for example, needing constant approval. Observe your defenses in action and let yourself feel the difference between the moments when you're closed off and the moments you're open. This is how you'll see that these defenses and defense walls that you brought up trigger the very misery you're trying to avoid. One of the hardest parts of this journey is realizing that the very things we thought were keeping us safe are actually keeping us stuck. Our defenses feel familiar, and familiar feels safe, even when it's painful. So we cling to them, afraid that if we let go, we'll be left vulnerable. The truth is, your true self doesn't need these defenses. The real you, the one beneath all the fear, the masks, and the old wounds, is already whole. Yes, facing these patterns can be uncomfortable. Yes, it takes courage. But the moment you start to see these unconscious beliefs for what they are, old survival strategies, not your true identity, you begin to set yourself free. Healing isn't about forcing yourself to be different. It's about understanding yourself deeply. It starts with awareness, being willing to look at your own patterns with honesty and compassion. It requires patience because these things didn't form overnight and they're not going to unravel overnight either. And perhaps most importantly, it takes willingness to let go of what no longer serves you, to trust the process, and to open yourself up to something new. So if you are feeling stuck right now, consider asking yourself these 4 questions. What patterns keep showing up in my life? What do I believe about love, success, and my own worth? How do I try to protect myself from emotional pain? Am I willing to start letting go of what's keeping me small? You are not broken. You don't need fixing. You are simply peeling back the layers, uncovering what was always there, the real, powerful, whole you. Take the process one step at a time, and above all, gentle with yourself. You are on the right path. If you'd like support on this path, help to tease out that main image, for example, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. The link to chat is always in the description below each episode. Sending you lots of love.